And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. The King speaks, whatever you want to call it. Uh, but whatever it is, you got me. And tonight, you're going to have another great guest, and that would be Ray Didinger. We'll talk to Ray, obviously, about the Eagles. Ray's got a long career. He's done a lot of things. We'll touch on that a little bit. And I want to tell you, it's important that you know that this show is presented by Stillwell Financial Advisors. Jeff Stillwell is the guy, is the man that knows his stuff. You know, every day there's something new uh, in this country with the way you can make sure you're set down the road. So any kind of wealth that you want to invest, Jeff Stillwell stays on top of it, knows it, will take care of it. Just talk to him and you'll understand he knows a lot. And I've learned a lot of things from him as well. There's his number, 732 343 0813. 732 343 0813. All right. Tonight, we'll talk about the Eagles. You know, there's some questions which fans don't have because fans are like, they just follow the Pied Piper. You know, oh, they won the game. Well, they did win the game, and they are 2-0, and that's important. It's important that wins. You got to keep those wins going. It was important for Kansas City to win, and they didn't, and now they're in trouble. They're in trouble in their division. They're in deep trouble. 0-2 is not a good way, and it's a good number to make the playoffs. So we'll talk about those things. There's some good teams in the NFC, and we'll ask Ray about that. Uh, you know, do the Eagles need more offense? We'll ask Ray about that. There's all kinds of things that we want to touch on, and we will touch on it. Now, the other thing, there's a couple of things I want to tell you. Next week, it's a program note. Listen, it's a program note. Next week, we're going to do the show on Tuesday night at 7:30 because James Brown is my guest, and it works into his schedule. And I thought it was important to get James Brown, the host of the CBS Today show, pregame show, obviously on CBS. He's been doing it for a while. He follows every game. He watches every game. So we'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about issues that are going on in the NFL. We'll talk about all those things. That's Tuesday, next Tuesday at 8 o'clock is when we'll have James Brown on. Also, I want to tell you that, and by the way, after we're done with Ray, an interesting point with the Flyers, and I'll touch on that. And an interesting point in the NFL. The NFL talks about integrity until they don't want to talk about integrity. I'm going to get into that. It's just the NFL just does whatever the bleep they want to do, and it doesn't matter because they are the NFL and you are not. It's kind of sickening that they just make the rules as they go. Actually, it's not a rule, but I'll get into that after we talk to Ray Didinger. But I also want to tell you, I want to announce our winner from last week or last show, last week, the autographed Schmidt poster. And the question was, up until this last week, what was the Eagles' record in the last 8 game twos of the season? They were actually 1-7. But there were many correct answers, and Patrick Hansberry was selected at random. Congratulations, Patrick. We'll get you out the poster, and thanks for being a watcher and listener of this show. Also, what's important on this show is the other people that support this show. And the other people that support this show, first off, is Audi Westchester. Now, I stopped off at Audi Westchester. I did that today. I just wanted to check because the sale they have going on this month for electric cars, the Audi Q6, the Audi Q4, are great great deals. But there's a very, very limited, first of all, it's a limited time because it's only good till the end of the month. And there's a limited amount of inventory. There's very few of the electric vehicles remaining. So if you snooze, you lose. He who hesitates is lost. Let me just give you the deal. The Q6 e-tron, $499 a month, or the Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. You'll need $5,295 down for the Q6 and $4,156 down for the Q4 plus taxes and registration fees. You got to stop by Audi at Westchester. The inventory, they have such a big inventory of cars other than electric cars. Their inventory right now is, I would say, it's limited because people have been so aggressive in purchasing vehicles during this sale. It's limited. All right, they're located 1421 Westchester Pike. Special offer is not going to last long, and the inventory has dwindled because so many people are taking advantage. The 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron for $499 a month, or the Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. Check it all out at AudiWestchester.com. Also, another one of our fine partners and sponsors, and that would be Piazza Property Pros. It's something you've procrastinated. You hesitated, right? You wanted to build a pool, but you waited. You still have time because the weather's good enough and they're still out there taking care of your land, doing maintenance, landscaping, fencing, building a pool. There's pool maintenance. There's all kinds of things getting your pool ready for the winter. 25 years of experience says what you need to know. They don't subcontract. That's important. They'll work within your budget. That's important. Here's a number to call to schedule a free consultation. 610-566-2608. That's 610-566-2608, or check them out at piazzaoutdoor.com. And now I want to welcome a figure that's been around so long in Philadelphia, and he's doing so many things. So he's going to start a new cycle, I'm sure he is, and we'll have Ray talk about it. Let's bring in Ray Didinger. Ray, welcome to the program. I don't even know where to start with you because I'm one of the guys that remember back in the days of the Evening Bulletin. I want to get that right. It was called the Evening Bulletin. Could you believe we had a morning and night newspaper? So we had the Evening Bulletin, the Inquirer was in the morning, and the Daily News just kind of floated in there somewhere.
Right.
But did a lot of that. You've done so many other things. But more importantly, Ray, obviously then, and writing books and the Eagles Encyclopedia. I mean, I could go down a list. We could put up a list and just have a rolling list of all the things that you've done. But it's all good. So I'm going to ask you before we get into the Eagles, and there's a lot to talk about there. Tell me what you're doing now. And I know you've got another play. You're writing more books. What the hell are you doing now?
At this moment, it's the play. I think most people have heard about Tommy and Me.
Yes.
It's the play that I did about me and Tommy McDonald. We launched that play in 2015, 10 years ago, and it's still going. It's amazing.
I know. And I came to the play one time because I did a radio show with Tommy.
Right.
I knew Tommy as a kid. And you were, I believe, at the 60 championship game as well.
Oh, sure.
I was there. So I remember that touchdown in the corner. I'll tell you the one vision I have, Tommy caught the touchdown and he ran into the crowd and the popcorn goes. So there was a popcorn guy down there selling popcorn, the popcorn going up in the air. But I remember Tommy. So it was part of my growing up. So I could kind of really relate to that. And for people that weren't there, they learned about Tommy McDonald and learned about the evolution of what the players were back then. You got to play now. You're writing books. I don't know if you've made that public, but I guess they'll be out soon enough.
Right.
But what do you notice? The difference in the players then, Tommy McDonald and Chuck Bednarik are the two players that everybody remembers.
Sure.
From that era. Norm Van Brocklin wasn't in Philadelphia that long for people to, Sonny Jurgensen is probably more memorable than Norm Van Brocklin, but Van Brocklin's the one that was on the championship team. What is the difference? Tommy was a happy-go-lucky guy. What was the difference in the players then and the players now that you see?
Oh, Howard, biggest thing is just money. It's just the money. Back in the era we're talking about, 1960s, players all had to have off-season jobs. I mean, there's what they made in football wasn't enough to support the family. I mean, even great players on championship teams. I mean, Chuck Bednarik had a job selling concrete for Warner Concrete Company. That's how he became Concrete Charlie. Everybody thinks it was Concrete Charlie because he was the guy that nobody could run through, but he actually got the nickname because he literally sold concrete. Tommy worked for the Philly Cigar Company as an endorser. A lot of the guys were substitute school teachers. Some of the guys worked for beer distilleries, and that was the way it was. I mean, they were making $12,000, $14,000 maybe. Van Brocklin was making, the year they won the championship, he was the quarterback, the MVP. He made $25,000. Tommy made $15,000. Bednarik made $20,000. And so, if you're married, you had a family, you had to get an off-season job. The season ended, and I mean, when I was working at NFL Films, we did a film about football in that era, and it was called Game of Their Lives. And I interviewed a bunch of the guys who played for the Baltimore Colts.
Right.
And they were the team that won back-to-back championships, 58, 59. They had, 7 or 8 Hall of Famers, Gino Marchetti, Johnny Unitas, Lenny Moore, all those guys. And they talked about how they lived in these little modest houses right in the middle of neighborhoods. They were working-class guys. Gino Marchetti worked the offseason setting pins in his brother-in-law's bowling alley. Johnny Unitas, the day after he won the 1958 championship, the game that we call the greatest game ever played, he was the MVP. 2 days later, he was back working at Bethlehem Steel. 2 days after he won the championship game, he was back working at Bethlehem Steel. So that was that era. And you ask, what's the biggest difference? It's the money. I mean, looking at what these guys are making now. Back then, they were just blue-collar working men, like all the fans that were sitting in the stands. And I think as a result, there was more of a bond between the players and the fans because in reality, in real life, they were equals.
It really is unbelievable. And some of the players, I think, let it affect not their approach. They play the game because the skills now, athletes are better athletes now, but they're just different. It's just different. Now, the media is different because of social media. So those kind of things are changed. They're not as Tommy McDonald would joke around. I didn't cover them, but like I said, I did a radio show with them and I did a show with Chuck Bednarik and Tommy McDonald, but it's not the same. There's still some really good people as players, but you're right. Money has just changed the whole thing around. But now, sometimes I don't think it's as much with football players. I think baseball players, if they lose, they go home and they know their next paycheck's coming in. It's okay. Not all of them. I don't want to indict all of them. But football players at least play hard because they feel it after a game because it's so physical. But it's just amazing the difference in that. When you were a writer covering the team, and then you covered it in a different way, within the most recent years, did you have as much fun now as you did then?
No.
No.
It's that's a good point. I think it's different. I mean, the whole feeling, the whole tenor of the press box now, the media that are covering it, it's just different. I mean, you came in and you were around in the 70s. I mean,
yes,
you don't go back quite as far as me. Like I started covering the Eagles in 70. but you didn't come along too much later.
75, 76, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And so you know what the press box was like. You know what the press corps was like. I mean, the guys who were covering the team, and this is true in football, the guys who covered the Eagles and also the guys who covered the Phillies. It was just a much more of a party atmosphere. I mean, the writers, I don't I don't want to tell tales out of school, but I mean, on the road, I mean, it was wild. I mean, guys were drinking and they were going out at night, and you got on the road and it was like, it was like The Hangover, I mean, and that was kind of the lifestyle that most of those guys lived. And now you go in the press box at the Link or at Citizens Bank Park, and everybody's hunched over their laptop, and everybody's real serious, and everybody's in their own little space and in their own little world. And it's not the kind of frat house, for the lack of a better description, of what the press box was like back in the 70s. And, I look at these, I'm not in the press box that much anymore, rarely, but when I walk in there, it feels like I'm walking into a library. Whereas back in the day, back in the 70s, you really felt like you were walking into a frat house. And I just don't know if the guys doing it today, I mean, they're good at what they do. They work their butts off because it's a 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
But I just don't get the same feeling that they're having as much, for the lack of a better term, fun as we did. I mean, we had a lot of fun back in those days. I'm not so sure that the guys today, it's all business. It's all real serious. Everybody's tweeting 24/7. And I just don't know that these guys are having as much fun doing what we did back in the day.
All right. So I'm going to relate to a recent incident over the weekend. Brian Kelly, the coach at LSU, went off on a reporter in the first question in the news conference because they struggled offensively. So he asked a legitimate question, and he went off on him. Now, he apologized a couple of days later, but that's not the point. Can you remember, and it rarely happens anymore, where a coach actually says what he feels, and Brian Kelly was obviously annoyed. Well, that was just an example, but there's other coaches. For instance, I think Nick Sirianni is a good guy. He's got a great personality, and he's a very good coach. Yet he says almost nothing at news conferences. So can you remember how outspoken coaches, and I'll just deal with coaches right now, coaches were then as opposed to now?
Again, the difference is like night and day. And I think part of it is the media culture today is so different. I mean, you've got back when I started covering in 1970, there was no sports talk radio. There was no cable TV. There was no ESPN. Now, I mean, even the local TVs, they didn't have cameras that guys could prop up on their shoulders. Everything was done in the studio. So at an Eagles game back in 70, 71, when it was over, you went in this little office that the coach had, and it was 5 writers. That was your post-game press conference. And so, I mean, you had incredible access to the coach, and he could be very frank with you. I mean, yes. You could ask him a question about, why did this go wrong? Or why did that happen? Or are you thinking about changing your quarterback? And if he's talking to 5 guys that he knows, and he knows that I recognize these guys, I work with them every day, he'll give you an honest answer. Most of the time, he'll say, yeah, well, look, don't quote me on this, but you want to know what happened? Here's what happened. And he'll say, off the record, just for your information, this is what happened. Well, a coach can't do that today because his post-game press conference is on live TV and radio. So you can't go off the record. The whole world's listening. Right. So your access to the information was a lot, there was no filter there because you're dealing in a smaller number with guys that the coach knew. And if he trusted you, and he would tell you what he said. Now, look, don't quote me or don't put my name on it, but you want to know what happened on that play? Here's what happened on that play. And as a reporter, you got the real information and you were able to write an accurate story. Now, today, everything is coach speak, and, Nick is, no different than anybody else. Almost all of them are like that. And you say that coaches don't want to say anything. Well, Andy was a master at that. I mean, for 14 years, Andy was a master of getting up there at a press conference and really not saying anything. But if you ever had a coach who did try to be honest, I mean, it would get him in trouble. I remember Mike McCormick, who was the coach in 73, 4, 5.
Oh, yeah.
It was asked after a game, the Eagles had lost. They were like 0-3, and they were playing really bad. And his Monday press conference, he's sort of talking around it. Yeah, we're not playing good. We got to play better, yada, yada, yada. Tommy Brookshire was working for Channel 10, and he was the sports director of Channel 10. So Tommy is in the group of reporters interviewing McCormick. And Tommy finally gets fed up with the tap dance. And Tommy says, "Oh, come on, Mike. How many dogs do you have on your roster?" That's his question. How many dogs do you have on your roster? And typically, you would think that a coach is going to deflect that. They never answer this question.
Okay.
Except this time, McCormick was so mad. This time, McCormick is so mad, he goes, And I think, oh, my God, he's actually going to answer this. And he says, I'd say 2. And then, of course, the question, well, who are they? Oh, no, I'm not going to tell you that. So then, like, all the players get painted with that brush, and it really was a game changer for Mike McCormick. The players felt like that he had indicted all of them, and that was when, if you remember, at the next home game, the fans came with the big dog bone. Hey, Eagles, here's your dinner. I mean, and the fans were chanting Alpo, Alpo, Alpo. I mean, that was. What a year that was. But it all started with Tommy asking this crazy out of left field question and the coach actually answering it. Well, you would never get that today.
It was interesting you brought that up. I actually brought that up to somebody today, talking about the difference. And I referenced Mike McCormick. And I also remember not only did they bring the dog bone, that tunnel where they walked out back into the locker room off the field, some players had cans of dog food. Full cans of dog food, not a lot, but some fans, and they threw the dog food at the players. It's just the fans in Philadelphia are out of control, but that doesn't happen today. Coaches don't say anything. Nick, I mean, you can say Andy Reid at least shared a little bit. He referenced Travis Kelce after Sunday's game. He says Travis is not happy he didn't catch the ball, so he mentioned the name. We could have played better. I could have done better. I guess him going for it when he didn't make it on 4th down. So he referenced that. But he did reference a player, which is a little over the edge for Andy Reid. But let's get down. All right, now let's get down to the Eagles Sunday. Jalen Hurts throws for 101 yards. Ray, can you remember the last time a team won a football game when your quarterback, assuming he didn't get hurt in the game and somebody else didn't have to come in, threw for 101 yards and they won the game?
No.
Think about that.
No, I can't. I mean, if you go back to the leather helmet days when they weren't even throwing when the forward pass hadn't been invented yet. Yeah. Probably then. But in this era, no, I can't remember one. I really can't.
I know. And then he said to who was it after the game? 95 for Kansas City.
Chris Jones.
He said Chris Jones, and he says, Chris Jones said something. I guess he was complaining about the tush push, and Jalen very bluntly, I think the quote was, "We won the fucking game," and that's really all it comes down to nowadays. It just comes down to winning and losing. But can the Eagles sustain winning like this to get to a Super Bowl?
Probably not. But I don't think they will. I think what they're going through right now is sort of a byproduct of the kind of preseason that Nick runs. The starters don't play. And in fact, this summer, Brown and Smith, the two best receivers, didn't practice all that much. Forget the games. They weren't ever going to play in the games, but they didn't even practice that much. So you had that, and you have the new offensive coordinator, which, that takes a little bit of getting used to.
Right.
So you're right now, and this is not just an Eagles thing. This is across the NFL, is September in today's NFL, with the way teams work in the summer or don't work in the summer, the September really has the feel of preseason football. And you're trying to build your team while you're also trying to win games. And, you saw what happened with the Eagles last year. After 4 games, they looked awful. And even when they came back and they won the Cleveland game, they looked awful. But they were a good team. And ultimately, over the course of a season, they began to play like a good team. They just didn't show it to you right away. But the key thing, and this is the big thing, Howard. A lot of teams go through this, and the Eagles are going through it right now. Mm-hmm. And we know they're a good team. I know they're a good team. You know they're good. Anybody that pays any attention, they're a good team. And over the course of the season, they're going to be a really good team. They're just not quite there yet. But now, in these weeks, when you're sort of putting things together and you're throwing for 100 yards, win the game. Just go out and win the game. It's not going to be pretty. Nobody's going to be leading the league in this or leading the league in that. But just get the win, so that later in the season, when you do really start putting things together and the team really starts to materialize and roll, which I think they will, you make sure you've won these games. That when you hit that point, you're not 2-4. You don't want to have to be playing from behind. Play these games now. They're not going to be pretty. They're not going to be fun to watch necessarily, but just win them, so that in week 5, week 6, when the pieces start to come together, you're where you want to be. You're on top of your division. You got a good record, and you can really roll. And that's what the Eagles are doing now. They're 2-0, and they've still got a couple of really tough games coming up. The Rams, and you and I talked about it earlier. The Rams are really good. This is going to be a very tough game. And then the following week, you got to play Tampa, where the Eagles always have trouble. So, they're not out of the woods yet. But even though people are going to worry about this and worry about that and point to the stats and all of those kinds of things, the fact is you're still 2-0. And after 2 weeks, that's where you want to be.
Yeah. Okay. So now I know it's just about winning the game, but Dallas fumbles in the red zone, and then the catch. Got receivers drop balls. If CeeDee Lamb catches that ball, I think Dallas might win the game when he caught it with between 2 and 3 minutes left. But Miles Sanders fumbles inside the 10. Travis Kelce, a ball he'll catch 99 out of 100 times, bobbles it, turns into an interception, which ended up, because of the return, into I believe a touchdown for the Eagles. If these things don't happen, and they do, I don't know that the Eagles win the game. But what the Eagles do extremely well is not turn the ball over. I can't remember the last time they didn't have a turnover in the playoffs. I can't remember the last turnover they had in a game. It couldn't have been the last couple of games, assuming the starters, I guess they had to play everybody the last game. But if they don't turn the ball over, they're going to win games. Technically, you say, well, they really shouldn't have won that game. If the other team turns the ball over and they don't, they win games. And that's something they coach, but everybody coaches that. Everybody coaches that. What was it called? I saw it on one of the pregame shows. It's called the peanut punch. Bill Cowher was talking about the peanut punch. I'm going to ask, I have James Brown on next week on the show. The peanut punch, where teams coach guys punching the ball out. And the Eagles at practice, you see, they coach that too. So, but everybody does it, but the Eagles are really good at it. So if you had to say, you look at the NFC, Green Bay, Los Angeles, Detroit showed that they're not last year they had a lot of injuries, that they're still a good team. What teams do you think will challenge the Eagles for the NFC?
Green Bay. I think Green Bay is really good. And the addition, everybody thinks it's like they got good when they got Micah Parsons, but he helped. I mean, he's a big addition. But they already had a really good team. And a lot of it just depends on, where Jordan Love, the quarterback, is in his development as a player. But it looks to me like he's grown by leaps and bounds. And I think they're the big threat. If you ask me, looking across the whole NFC, who really challenges, because the Eagles are right there. I mean, the Eagles are right there. I would put Green Bay right there. And I would put the team that you're going to play this week, I would put the Rams just a shade back. I mean, they're in that same conversation. The Lions, the Lions still have some good players, but I really think they're going to miss the offensive and defensive coordinators. Johnson and Glenn. Teams can lose one coordinator and kind of survive. You lose both coordinators, that's hard, especially when your head coach is a guy like Dan Campbell,
right?
Who isn't really a big X's and O's guy. Dan is kind of a motivator and a good leader type, but I thought that Glenn and Johnson, who are real tactical wonks, I thought they were perfect. I mean, Glenn ran the defense, Johnson ran the offense, and Dan kind of had oversight. But you take those two guys away, who are both very good at what they did, I think the team is going to suffer for that. I mean, I'm not suggesting they're going to finish, 5-12, but I think they're going to take a step back. And I like Green Bay to win that division. And I think when it comes right down to it, into the postseason, injuries could change everything, obviously. But I think when it comes to the postseason, that the team, I think it's going to come down to the Eagles and Packers. The Rams will be in it, but if you're asking me if I had to project now, who's the NFC Championship game, I would probably say Eagles, Green Bay.
When you look at the schedule, the Eagles never play 2 road games in a row, which I think is an advantage. The Rams actually played in Tennessee. I assume they went back home to L.A. because it was a 1:00 game. And then they come back to the East Coast this week. The Eagles play Detroit here. Now, Green Bay, they play on the road. It's a Monday night game. Obviously, that's going to be a really, really difficult game. So when you look at the schedule, the Eagles, I mean, you still got to play the game and you still got to win the game. Kind of interesting. Mark Sanchez, I had him on a few weeks ago. I like Mark, and I think he's a pretty sharp guy. Quarterbacks usually have a better feel for everything that's going on in the field. Now he works for Fox, so he gets to see a lot of games. He made a point and about Jalen Hurts. Sometimes, I don't know if he said sometimes. I'll use sometimes to make it soft. Doesn't always pick up the hot read. Now, Kansas City, we know, blitzed a lot on Sunday's game.
Darn right they did.
He should have had was that Dallas Goedert not being in the game, or should he have had more completions off of blitzes? He had plenty of time. They just didn't let him. They obviously protected the edges, didn't let him get outside. And a couple of times he got away. But does he have to improve in making that hot read? Because coaches see other coaches do this. I mean, Dallas, they barely scored 24 against Dallas. Dallas gave up 37 against the Giants on Sunday. Right. They scored 20 against Kansas City. His defense is good, but Kansas City's not. They're a shadow of what I think, kind of a shadow of what they used to be. Does he have to do a better job? Because, when they go to Tampa, I don't know what's going to happen against LA, but I know Todd Bowles has always done a really good job in playing against the Eagles. Is he going to have to do a better job of picking up the hot read?
It kind of comes and goes, Howard. I mean, I've seen some games where I think he is really good at it. And there are other games where there are times when it's there and he doesn't seem to see it. Sometimes I think it's less about him and more about the opponent and how well they disguise what they're doing. You mentioned Tampa Bay. You mentioned Todd Bowles. He's really good at that. I mean, he's a very aggressive blitzer. He has one of the highest blitz ratios of any coach in the league, and that's been true throughout his career. But one of the things that makes him effective with it is some teams blitz a ton, but you can see it coming a mile away. Whether it's the players or whether they're coached or whether it's a system, they don't disguise the blitz very well. The quarterback, you can sees it coming before the ball's ever snapped, and there'll be what they call sight adjust, where he will know and the receiver will know, and they'll just change whatever the route is, and that becomes the hot route, and the ball's out, and the blitz never gets there. Bowles has always been good at disguising it so that even though you know there's pressure coming, you can't see where it's coming from. And clearly, I mean, it's bothered Hurts. I mean, he has not had much success against Bowles' defenses for that reason. So it's kind of less about him, and it's more about you have a coach there who's really good at this. I think that most of the time, week in and week out, what you're saying about the hot read and all that was very true of him earlier in his career when he first took a job away from Wentz, and he was just learning how to play. That was a very fair evaluation of him. Less so now. I mean, he is most of the time he's really good at it. I mean, will he miss some? Yeah, but everybody misses some. But most of the time, and it's reflected in his interception ratio, which is very low. He doesn't make those kinds of mistakes. I mean, what he will do, and one of the things he's learned is if I don't like what I see, I'm just going to throw the ball away. He didn't do that for a while, like as a younger player, and a lot of younger quarterbacks are like that. They don't want to give up on a play, but you have to do it sometimes. Sometimes that's the smart play. He's learned how to do that, and now you will see him. He'll do it. If there's nothing there, he'll throw it away and play the next play. That's part of growing into the position. But as far as the idea of seeing the field and playing hot read football, he's much better than he was, and I would not say it's a weakness. I would not say it's a weakness. No, I think when I watch him now, I think he has grown tremendously as a quarterback. I really do. I think he is. I mean, when I first saw him playing at Alabama years ago, when he was playing at Alabama, I didn't think he'd be an NFL quarterback at all. Because I didn't think he threw the ball nearly well.
Right.
I mean, but after he left Alabama and he went to Oklahoma, he was like a different guy. I mean, it was only because he worked and worked and worked and worked to make himself a better passer. And at Oklahoma, when I started, I said, you know what? He can play in the NFL. The way he throws the ball now, he can play in the NFL. And he's come to the NFL and, been great. I mean, all he does is win. He's already won a Super Bowl, and he was a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, and he played in the Super Bowl game, man. I went back over that tape. He was really good. I mean, he saw everything. He was so on top of that game. And all the people who said, well, Saquon Barkley just carried that team all year. The team was all about Barkley, and, Hurts was just a game manager. Well, not that day. When it was all on the line, the Chiefs did a pretty good job of handcuffing Barkley, and they put it on Jalen Hurts, and he had a terrific game and, walked out of there with an MVP award.
All right, that leads me into Saquon Barkley. He had so many touches and carries last year, and historically, not all the time, the following year, that player, well, he wasn't going to rush for 2,000 yards this year, so we knew that. No. But is he the same back? And again, we've only had a sampling of 2 games where it's not been, he's not overwhelmed you. And I'll start with that. Is he, in your opinion, the same back, especially when you think about how many times he touched the ball last year?
It's really you're really asking 2 questions at the same time. Your basic point about backs who have that kind of workload one year.
Yep.
The next year, history will tell you that the vast majority of them, they just can't do it again. I mean, physically, they just can't do it again. Some guys, Terrell Davis was an exception. He was able to put 2 of these years back to back. But most of them, they don't. I mean, you look at, the Jamal Andersons and Priest Holmes and guys like that had that kind of a year. The next year, you could really see a difference. So Yeah, I mean, well, certainly over time in the NFL, you've seen that with really good backs. But do I see the same kind of thing with Barkley? No, I don't. I mean, I see. To me, he looks like he's got the same speed. He looks like he's got the same acceleration. I don't see like where you're looking at it and say, no, he's lost a step. I don't see that. I think what's happening right now is the offense just isn't in sync yet. I mean, the coordination and the timing between him and his offensive line isn't quite there right now, the way it needs to be. And frankly, I haven't yet had a chance to look at this latest game, but looking back at the Dallas game, the offensive line did not play well. They really didn't. I mean, for this group, as good as they are, and the standard to which they normally play,
right?
The Dallas game to me was a substandard game for the offensive line, which was reflected in Barkley's performance.
Well, they need Barkley.
It was him than it was what was happening up front.
They need Barkley. I mean, the coaches I know, in talking to them, they'd like to keep Jalen around 23 passes a game.
Right.
By keeping him around that number, obviously less chance for turnovers, and turnovers are a big reason why the Eagles aren't winning. And as long as Barkley can be as successful, then they're okay there. So that's part of the equation. But Nick Sirianni brought up on Monday at his news conference, they need more explosive plays. Mm-hmm. I think they just had one to Devontae Smith against Kansas City. They need more explosive plays. And surprisingly, he actually admitted that they've got to do a better job. And, obviously they'll work on it. You see the same thing. It's kind of interesting. You can't be as successful if you have to have 12, 13 play drives as you do with 7 to 8 play drives, and explosive plays kind of change that. So you see the same thing. Yeah.
You're right. And what made last year so extraordinary, by not just Eagles standards, but by anybody's standards, was the fact that you were getting what they call chunk plays or explosive plays. You were getting them out of your running back. I mean, you're getting 60, 70-yard touchdowns by handing off. Nobody does that. I mean, normally those are pass plays. The Eagles were getting 60-yard touchdowns with handoffs. I mean, that never happens. So there were a lot of things that happened with the Eagles last year that were just atypical. And in a lot of ways, and in conversations I had with football people in the offseason about what the Eagles did and the way they were able to win with that style of offense, I had one coach tell me that the Eagles are his term was they are an anomaly. They are a totally different team than every other team. Now, I think if you look around the league now, more teams are running the ball more than they used to. The running game is kind of coming back. Nobody's talking about it much, but a lot of teams are running the ball more. And running backs are getting bigger yardage totals. And the running game is kind of coming back into fashion. Now, nobody to the extent of what the Eagles did last year. And this one coach was telling me that as a defensive staff, you have to prepare for the Eagles different than everybody else because of Barkley, because of the line, which is by everybody's reckoning the best line of football, and the threat that the quarterback represents. I mean, Jalen doesn't run as much as he used to, but you still have to play him as if he could. So they are a very hard team to play against because they're unlike any other team on your schedule in terms of how you have to prepare.
Right.
And that's how they won last year. And if they're going to win this year, and I think they have a chance, they're going to have to get back to playing that same kind of football because that's what they are.
All right, let's talk about the play that everybody can't stop talking about. First of all, I ask you, do you like the tush push?
When they first started doing it, I hated it. When they first started doing it, I'll admit it. I will admit it. I'll raise my hand and admit it. I mean, I was one of those people that said that's not a football play. I was one of the people that was saying what other people, it's a rugby play. But I'll kind of come around on it for this reason, that the Eagles have worked on it so hard and practiced it so well that it's not just a matter of lining a bunch of guys up and just pushing somebody forward. I mean, sure, anybody, 31 other teams could do it, but they just don't do it, and they don't practice it, and they haven't developed it the way the Eagles have. So I admire the fact that the Eagles have found this thing, and they've worked at it and worked it into their offense as a true weapon. And they've gotten to the point now where everybody knows it's coming, and they still can't stop it. I respect that. I really respect that. And there's no question that it is a big part of what makes them good. I mean, just being able to pick up the yardage on the field, move the sticks, that's great. But the other part of it is the psychological effect it has on the other team when they just say, we can't stop this. And that is something that the Eagles have that is unique among all teams. And, you and I talked about this earlier, and I kind of agree with you. My feeling is that I'll bet they take it out after this year.
Yeah.
Everything that I had heard coming into this year was that it wouldn't survive. I mean, everybody told me before the offseason league meetings that it's going to get overturned. That the Green Bay, and they're the ones that are pushing this, that Green Bay has enough votes that they're going to get this thing overturned and the play is going to be ruled illegal. Well, that's what I was told. And lo and behold, they took the vote, and the Eagles, they only held on by 2 votes, but they held on. But if they win it again running that play, I don't think there's any way it's going to survive another year.
Well, but here's the other issue, and now it's come up. Dean Blandino, who actually I should talk to him. I've got his number. The former director of officials, who now works for Fox, said, I guess the Eagles, and we don't notice it because it's so quick. It's like a split-second thing. False start on a lot of those. If you really break it down, there's a false start. And that puts the officials in a really bad spot, because how do you call it? If you call a false start, then there's no tush push anymore. And they're, instead of, third or fourth and a yard, it's going to be 5 or 6. Right. That ain't going to work anymore. So the fact that that's now coming into the play, I wonder how much the officials are going to be looking for that and throw the flag, but say, you moved. It's not a reviewable play, but they're going to be watching it very closely now that it's come up. You believe that?
Yeah, 100%. And there was absolutely one that the Eagles ran in Kansas City where you could clearly see movement. I mean, it was really obvious on the replay. And Andy Reid was livid on the sideline, and rightly so. I mean, there should have been a penalty call. But the point that you're making, I think, is exactly right. Because to get this overturned, when they take this back into committee in the offseason, which, trust me, they will, the teams can't, their argument can't be, we want to get rid of that because they're really good at it. That's not a winning argument. Okay?
No, right.
But what you have to do is you have to present something that seems like it's reasonable and fair. Okay. So what they tried last year in this offseason when they met was they tried to go with the injury factor, that there's a risk of serious injury on this play. And the Eagles basically brought out the evidence and said, nobody's got hurt running this play. So, okay, the injury thing, that didn't work. And so the tush push survived. So they're not going to bring that back again because they can't. That already lost. So they have to come up with another argument. And I really think you're right. I think the argument will be that you can't officiate this play, that it's almost an impossible play to officiate. It's unfair to the officials to put them in that position. And as a result, because of that, because of how it hurts the officiating and puts officials in a position where they can't officiate the game properly or fairly, that makes it unfair, and that's why it should go. I can almost see that argument coming, and I think that's where the opponents of it, the teams that are opposed to it, that's what they're going to argue next year. And with this one, they just might win.
All right, Ray. A quick question, then I want to ask about all the things you're doing. The Eagles win or Sunday? How do you look at that game against the Rams?
I think it's a really tough game. I think maybe I'm just a little higher on the Rams than a lot of other people,
but I like the Rams.
Yeah. I think they're really good. I think McVay's a really smart coach. I think Stafford runs that offense beautifully. I think the addition, Puka is a terrific receiver, but the addition of Devontae Adams has given them another real weapon in that passing game. Offensively, they're very, very good. Where I see the Eagles having an advantage is kind of where they had the advantage last year, which is the Rams' defense is built. It's by today's NFL standards, it's a small defense. They're built for speed, and they fly around the field, and that's all well and good. But when you saw what the Eagles did to them in those two games, the Eagles' offensive line, big and strong as it is, just physically handled the Rams' front seven, and it's basically the same guys. And I just don't think the Rams can win that battle. So we've talked a little bit about the fact that Barkley hasn't hit that 100-yard mark yet. I think he will this week, and I think the Eagles will be able to run the ball better than they have in the last two games. And in what I think is going to be a really tough game, because I think the Rams are good. I think the Eagles are going to win this game, and it's going to be the game that Barkley kind of breaks out.
All right, so now let's run down. We'll be here for another hour. All the things. All the things. All right, you got a play that's running right now. Where is it? Where can people see the play?
Okay, the new play is called Spinner, and it's a play. Everybody thinks it's just football, but this is a play about ice hockey in the 1970s, and it is at the Delaware Theater Company in Wilmington, which is right off I-95.
Yep.
Really, really beautiful theater down by the riverfront. And we open September 17th, and we will run through October the 5th. And we have the play, and then after the play, we'll have like a little Q&A session. We've got some really cool guests. Bernie Perrant's going to come one night. The Watson brothers are going to come one night. Brian Propp is going to come one night.
Cool.
So, we'll have it'll be a lot of fun. So I tell people, go Delaware Theater Company website. You'll see the graph. They'll give you the list of the talkback hosts, and you can order tickets there and come on out and see it. And then 2 nights after we close Spinner, we open Tommy and Me again on October the 7th at the People's Light Theater in Malvern, and we will be doing Tommy and Me until through October the 19th.
Okay, great. And are you writing a couple of books right now? Are you working on a couple of books?
I had to rewrite the Eagles Encyclopedia.
Okay.
Because I've done 3 editions of it. The last one I did was the update after they won Super Bowl 52, because obviously that's a pretty big moment. The Eagles Encyclopedia isn't complete without that. And then lo and behold, they won it again. Right. So I had to go back in and do a revision of it and a rewrite of it. And so that is coming out, and that will be in bookstores. Actually, people can pre-order it on Amazon now if they want to, or you can wait for it to come to bookstores. But that is called Eagles Encyclopedia Champions 2, Roman numeral 2.
Okay. All right. Ray, thanks. It's just, I don't know that you have time to sleep, but that's all right. Good luck with the plays.
Thank you.
Good luck with the books. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, Ray. We've known each other for a long time. It's always fun talking to you.
Sure have. Always a pleasure talking to you, Howard. Take care.
All right. Take care. Ray Didinger. It is always a pleasure. And another pleasure is, so many things that I could go on with Ray for another hour. Our presenting sponsor is very, very, very important. And he's also important to this show. And that would be Stillwell Financial Advisors. Jeff Stillwell, in today's world, you need somebody to help you invest your wealth. And Jeff Stillwell is that person, because he knows his stuff, and he knows a lot of this stuff that you have to stay up with. It almost seems like it changes from week to week, and Jeff is on top of all of it. If you have any questions or you want to talk to him about financial future and your security. Stillwell Financial Advisors. And Jeff Stillwell's number is 732-343-0813. Also, and there's not much time left. It's probably, I would say, less than a couple of weeks. This deal at Audi Westchester is going on. The new 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron, $499 a month, or an Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. You'll need $5,295 down for the Q6, $4,156 down for the Q4, plus taxes and registration fees. Stop by Audi Westchester for more details. I'm telling you, it's always fun to get a new vehicle. It's always fun to look at cars. And if you snooze, you're going to lose, because this thing is going to go away before you know it. Check them out, 1421 Wilmington Pike. Special offers not lasting much longer. 2025 Audi Q6. The electric cars are hot right now, $499 a month, and an Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. Check them out, AudiWestchester.com. And because you waited this summer about redoing your property, don't wait any longer. You still have the weather still fine to be able to get this done by Piazza Property Pros, whether it's redoing your property with, you see there, the hot tub, and then you have the hot pit and all the good things going on to make your home and make company have a good time. Actually enjoy the good time there. Piazza Property Pros with 25 years of experience. They don't subcontract, whether it's landscaping, pool maintenance, or building a pool. You have got it all with Piazza Property Pros. Exceptional results. Call and they'll work within your budget. Call 610-566-2608. You can schedule a free consultation. That's 610-566-2608, or check them out, piazzaoutdoor.com. You know, Ray says so many interesting things. And again, like I said, we could go on forever, but a couple of things I do want to touch on. And one is, I see a lot of comments from fans when we talk about the tush push. I don't think there's any way it'll be around next year. And here's the problem. The fans can, it's not, it, hey, listen, it was fun for a while, but it's not a football play. And there's so many times the Eagles, now we've identified that they have false starts. We'll see if the officials call one of them on Sunday. More officials are not going to be afraid to call it. So, all right, I just wanted to touch on that. I also wanted to mention that Dallas Goedert was back at practice today. So it looks like he will play on Sunday. And, that's a good thing for the Eagles. They really do need the tight end. I want to touch on, before we do that, let me just tell you, I'll give you a question to win another really great Mike Schmidt autographed item of something that Ray said. This is a commemorative booklet which came out almost a year to the day after Mike Schmidt announced his retirement. Now you'll notice on there, I actually got the commemorative booklet postmarked on that night. That Lou Gehrig stamp is a postmark from the post office that was at the ballpark that night, which is really kind of fascinating that they had a post office there. But anyway, that's the prize. I'll ask a question. Submit it to howardeskin.com by midnight Friday, September 19th. And the show on, watch the show on, wait a minute. So if you submit it by Friday, we're going to have it on Saturday. I guess we'll have the winner on Saturday at 8 a.m. Not Wednesday, but Saturday, September 20th at 8 a.m. to see if either on X, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube and you'll automatically be notified when the show comes on. All right. I'm going to give you the question in a couple of minutes, but I want to touch on something with the Flyers and then something else, which the NFL, they are just total frauds. They are total frauds, the NFL. All right. The Flyers, Danny Briere spoke on Tuesday, the general manager. Carter Hart is eligible to sign a contract, I think, in mid-October. And Danny Briere was honest about it. He shared the information that Carter Hart's agent talked to the Flyers, and they thought it was a better idea that he starts new somewhere else and just starts new. So it's very unlikely that the Flyers, for people that wondering whether Carter Hart would come back, the goaltender, not likely, according to what Danny Briere said. All right, a reminder again, the show will be on next Tuesday, not Wednesday. James Brown, the host at the CBS Today, will be our guest. Fascinating guy. I've known James for a long time. A lot of stuff to talk about with the NFL, and obviously we'll talk about the Eagles-Rams game. All right. Before I give you the question to win the Mike Schmidt autograph commemorative program, I want to deal with something that is not against the rules, according to the NFL. They had one of their PR hacks put out a statement. It is not against the rules for a part owner to be in the coach's box. What is against the integrity of the league? And it's about integrity. And all right, let me show you a couple pictures. Tom Brady, who does the Fox games, was in the coach's booth, which is all well and good, if he didn't meet with coaches and players at production meetings when he does a game. So, for instance, Tom Brady met with the Eagles coaches, Jalen Hurts, a few of the coaches, Jalen Hurts, and he's sitting there and he's on the headphones with Chip Kelly, and that's fine if he wasn't doing other games and having production meetings. For instance, the Eagles do play the Raiders. He's a part owner of the Raiders. So he talks to Chip Kelly, who's the offensive coordinator, down on the field, and he talks to him multiple times. Isn't that part of the integrity and a bad look for a part owner to be part of production meetings talking to other coaches, which in some cases, and in this case with the Eagles, they do play the Raiders this year in December? Isn't that, and he'll probably do another Eagles game, don't you find that a little bit opposed to, and the NFL worries about integrity. Oh, we got to keep everything legit and straight and all that bullshit. They are phonies, the NFL. Phony, phony, phony. Whatever serves their purpose. And Tom Brady's Tom Brady. He's not the best quarterback ever played. I think that's Joe Montana. But nonetheless, you could make that argument. But that's not the point. And the fact that he's a part owner of the Raiders and be in the coach's box, that's fine too. But he can't be part of a broadcast that meets with other coaches and players of teams that are opponents of that team, of the Raiders. There's something wrong with that. It's not a good look. The NFL just cares about what they say because they are biggest company in the world. They do whatever the bleep they want to do. It's wrong. Don't give me, and they camouflaged it. It's not against the rules for a part owner to be in the coach's box, but it hurts the integrity and the look of the integrity of the NFL when he's in production meetings with coaches. And in some cases, those teams are going to play the Raiders. It's just a bad look. NFL worries about integrity. Well, they don't. In this case, Tom Brady can do anything because he's Tom Brady and we're not. And that's the bottom line. All right, let me give you the question to win that commemorative. I've had my say. And Tom Brady's he's a great quarterback. Great quarterback. Very conversational, great personality. He loves his Botox, loves his hair color. He loves all that stuff because he does all that stuff. It's just, hey, listen, you want to do it? Tom, we all age. Just don't be so vain. Don't be so vain. But whatever the case, he cheated. And he was so good at cheating that he knew he was going to be suspended for, I think it was 4 games the following year. So what he did is he had the Patriots restructure his contract where he didn't make a lot of money the year he got the 4-game suspension, so he wouldn't lose that much money. And they pushed the money back down the road. Okay, smart. That's kind of, it's a little shady. Then the other thing he's done, and this was a story in the Boston Globe at one time, he owned a massage company that worked on the players, that they were the massage company that was employed by the Patriots. He made money from that massage company, which beat the salary cap. This guy just finds every angle to cheat. And he cheated. He cheated by deflating those footballs along with that Bill Belichick head coach. All right. I could go off on Tom Brady all the time. All right. Here's the question. Ray made a point. Who are, and he mentioned two teams that he thinks could be the toughest challenge for the Eagles this season. The two teams in the NFC that he thought could be the toughest challenge for the Eagles. And submit your answer to howardeskin.com by Friday at midnight. We'll announce the winner on Saturday for that Mike Schmidt commemorative booklet signed, and it was I've got it signed and postmarked by Mike Schmidt, and submit it, and we'll select the winner, one of the winners at random, and you will win that prize. Thanks for all the last year he was not allowed to say certain things against the NFL. I don't remember that. I see a comment here. I don't remember that. But originally he was not allowed to be in production meetings with other teams. Then Fox probably complained, and it's just, it's Tom Brady. Come on, it's Tom Brady. It's, he's bigger than anybody else in the world. It's Tom Brady. So, all right. Tom Brady was a hell of a quarterback. Two of the Super Bowls weren't his wins. Kyle Shanahan lost one with Atlanta as the offensive coordinator, and Pete Carroll didn't run the ball with Marshawn Lynch, and then Russell Wilson threw an interception. I mean, it's just, come on, give me a break. Please, give me a break. All right, James Brown next Tuesday. We're going to do, just right now, this is a day change for next Tuesday to accommodate James Brown. We'll have a lot of fun. That's next Tuesday. But the next time we're on, because this is Wednesday, we'll be on Saturday, and it'll be you and me talking about the Eagles game. And I do want to touch on, there's going to be an argument about who should be the MVP in the National League. And we'll debate that on Saturday as well. Thanks for joining the show. Thanks to Ray Didinger. Thanks to you. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Joe Gangemi for helping out with all the technical stuff that you see up here. And thanks to Tony Anastasia for all the graphic and all the good stuff that she does as well. Thank you. Have a great night and a better day tomorrow. Take care, and we'll see you on Saturday.